one of Charlie's biggest things that we would talk about is make fun of the left. Not because you're trying to be mean or rude about it, but that Thomas More saying that I think I quoted a while ago that the devil can't endure to be mocked. The devil can't bear to be made fun of because everything he does is in opposition of truth. And one of Charlie's things, obviously, was defending truth, and some of the best ways to illuminate that is through humor, as we've seen. I remember we were backstage. Where were we? University of Wyoming, I think. And there was some discussion of what I was going to say. If you don't know this, I would open up the events for Charlie anytime we were in a big, college theater. I'd do 5-10 minutes and kind of loosen up the audience a little bit because he would make some very funny jokes. And sometimes people wouldn't necessarily be prepared for them because they were just ready for the intellect. And when he'd make a funny joke, it would just go right over people's heads. So my job was to loosen them up a little bit, to get them ready for an exciting and engaging and sometimes even humorous talk from Charlie. But all that being said, we were backstage in Wyoming and there were some ideas being thrown around and I was like, I don't know if I want to go that far. And Charlie said, dude, just make fun of the left because we need to expose the truth. And the way that we do that is through humor in so many cases. And that's what he believed and that's what he stuck to. So with that, that's what we're going to kind of keep doing in memory of Charlie. I know we've always been kind of lighthearted on this show. And also I appreciate you sticking around kind of through this tumultuous time, trying to figure out what this is, not wanting to make fun of things in a way that we had in the past, because of course there's a somber nature to what it is that we're doing now, but at the same time keeping in mind that Charlie loved to laugh, and laugh we will, because again, the devil can't bear to be mocked, evil cannot bear to be made fun of, because that illuminates the truth. That being said, let's go to some of the interesting clips from around the internet. I think yesterday we played a clip, but also some articles from, what was her name? Karen Attia, the Washington Post reporter that was like, I was fired for saying things that Charlie Kirk was a white man, whatever it was that she said. I just quoted him. Okay, yeah, but you quoted him out of context to further your point, which is why you're not a journalist. Well, that context was exactly what he was saying leading into this specific clip. He had said, yeah, Joy Reid was affirmative action. And they said, how dare you? She's a smart person. Therefore didn't need affirmative action. Yet, here's a 5-second clip of her saying the exact opposite. Watch this.
Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action.
No, but Charlie's saying it is bad because she's a black woman and she has to be protected, even though she says the things that, well, we all know because... yeah, clearly you didn't get into Harvard on your merit. We all know that. But she's not an affirmative action. She's definitely qualified. Charlie's evil for saying that. Yeah, okay. Good luck with that. One of the other things that I think is interesting, and this is again, this is so just difficult to find the line between humor and seriousness. This next clip is Montel Williams, the former daytime talk show host, on CNN for some reason. Not entirely sure why they have him on the panel. I don't know if Steve Wilkos is going to be on next, followed by Jerry Springer, who, if he were still alive, would probably happily go on the CNN political panel. I'm not sure why he's here, but this is another element in my crusade against language, not policing language, but using language inaccurately and irresponsibly. Watch this, because this to some people may sound smart, but what it really is trying to disguise evil and put the blame on someone else. Watch this.
I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
Although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. That's why I played about what they said about the family. I mean, the ideological difference that he was reacting to wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It was also maybe his dad. I mean, his father was, according to him, MAGA. So that conflict was there, clearly.
But this is a young man who's dating a person in transition.
And what? What point are you trying to make there, Montel and Abby? Oh, actually, maybe it was he was protecting his mentally ill boyfriend, girlfriend. Again, I don't even know which direction is going which way. I don't really care. clearly somebody who had the ideology of a person that a lot of us would deem mentally ill. Oh, he's just trying to protect that person. And what? So it's fine then, Montel? Is that what you're getting at? Is that what you're alluding to? No, it wasn't political. He was just trying to protect his significant other. And then Abby saying, "Oh, maybe it was a retaliation against his dad." Oh, you okay? Cool. It's his dad's fault. You're right. Yeah, that's gonna stick and track with mainstream America. Oh yeah, the shooter, wouldn't have had to assassinate a father and a husband. Except for it was just his dad. His dad was mean to him, so blame the dad and not the adult who's responsible for his own actions. Again, it's trying to thread the needle between making fun of these people and just unloading on them. But language being a huge part of that, trying to twist it into no, this is not political. It's emotional internally. Yeah, okay, fine. Then what happened? What's the next level of that? Clearly political. Clearly the ideology turns people's emotions inside for the worse if you're going to the radical left. And stop trying to obfuscate the obvious intent and where that intent comes from. Oh, emotional sounds better, so we're just going to use that. No, he's a cold-blooded killer that did something abhorrent, and you can't let him off the hook because his dad, for some reason. It's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, there's another clip from CNN that we can make fun of. It's a little bit easier to poke fun of in levity at. Watch this.
I think there are a lot of families out there who don't believe boys should play girls' sports.
They're not boys. I'm not going to listen to transphobia at this table. I am not going to listen if you call a trans girl a boy.
Are you going to allow me to finish my explanation?
When you use a word that's a slur, I'm going to interrupt. That's not how it is. They're not boys. They're not boys. They're not playing girls' softball. I'm not going to sit there and listen to that.
Let's reset for a second because, look, this is a really heated issue, right? And Sharmichael, I know you. I know that you understand that people have different views on this. I think out of respect for Jay, let's try to talk about this in a way that is respectful.
Yes. Talk about this in a way that is respectful by lying to him. That's how you should be respectful of his feelings. And also, as if I will not tolerate transphobia at this table as some sort of an argument. And I recognize this has nothing to do with Charlie. It was just a really interesting clip going around, but also gives you a peek and an insight into how libs think. Oh, okay, cool. So if you're going to make up a term and then decide to be offended at it, and therefore you can't tolerate the discussion of it at this particular table, what if we do the same thing? I'm sorry, Jay, I cannot tolerate conservaphobia. Everything you say is hurtful and violent to me by your words. I will not sit here and tolerate conservaphobia being spread, the hate being spread from you. Both sides can do that, by the way. We can do that. I don't think we should. I think we're better than that. I think we're bigger than that. But also, don't pretend that that's a good argument. No, I will not have transphobia at this table. Okay, you can't just make up a word and then pretend to be offended by it when somebody talks about reality. Ridiculous nonsense. One of the things that I think is really interesting of where we are at in the culture, I think I've talked about it on this show, but my wife is not the most politically engaged. I think I've mentioned this before, but she has decided to engage, let's put it lightly, with friends of hers who posted horrific things after Charlie's assassination, which I think brought up kind of a broader, interesting and fascinating dynamic between people online and on the internet. I thought this was really interesting. I think this was from Study Finds. People on the internet resort to calling names as opposed to engaging in good faith arguments. Nearly half of objections on the internet, according to this study, I think it was Cornell too, by the way, that did the study. Nearly half of objections online in comment sections are personal attacks rather than actual arguments. In other words, you're commenting, somebody said Charlie Kirk is a racist. I'm like, okay, well, can you prove any of that point? Do you have any evidence of that? Can you share a video that Charlie is a racist or being racist? And then they'll say, you're just a part of the MAGA cult. That happens 50% of the time. I would love to see this data broken down by ideological lines. How many conservatives resort to saying, Jimmy Pritzker's a Lizzo impersonator, which, maybe some of your favorite talk show hosts have said at some point in the past. I don't know when they would have said that, but it's possible. But that's the thing. I would be curious to see the ideological lines. Cornell researchers also identified different tactics that people use to shut down comments, from insults to moral appeals and threats, which again is awful. Crosstalk between political opposition is common among many groups. Challenging the ideas of social media is only an echo chamber, which is absolutely true. And I think what I'm trying to get at, broadly speaking, is how do we resolve this? How do we resolve a culture that online sits to argue with people, not through logic and reason and good faith arguments and debate, but instead defaults to personal insults? I don't understand it, especially on social media. And like I said, I will try and dig into this as there's more information that I'm sure will come out about this, because I think this is going to be a hot topic to talk about. Who's doing more of it? Anecdotally, I would say libs are probably more likely to call somebody a racist or fascist and think that they've won the argument, just like that dude who says, "I will not stand for this made-up term transphobia" at this table. The bottom line is this. Charlie unequivocally advocated for open dialogue, free exchange of ideas. It appears that online, and this is not probably a shock to anybody, it appears that online that culture is diminishing. We have to bring it back, because like Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.